The Civil War and American Life. Tensions over the war. Within the North and the South, there were internal divisions over whether the war should be carried out. The Civil War caused internal division in both the North and the South. Not all Northerners supported abolition, nor all Southerners supported slavery. In the South, slave plantation zones backed war more intensely than the rural and poor areas. There were several peace demonstrations in North Carolina and Georgia. Support for states' rights also caused problems in the South. In the North, many opposed the Emancipation Proclamation. Northern Democrats who opposed the war were called Copperheads. They criticized the war and called for peace. To avoid disruptions, both the North and the South suspended the habeas corpus in some places. In the North, more than 3,000 people were arrested and jailed without trial. The Draft Laws. Both South and North were forced to establish a draft in order to have enough troops. Due to high level of desertion on both sides, both the South and the North were forced to establish a draft as a way of keeping enough active soldiers. In April 1862, the South approved a law that required all white men between 18 and 35 to serve for 3 years. Later, they expanded the age range from 17 to 50. The North adopted a similar draft law in 1863 for men ages 20 to 45. These laws were unequal because wealthy people could avoid war by paying a sum or hiring a substitute. People on both sides complained this had transformed the struggle into a poor man's fight. There were riots against the draft. The worst took place in New York in July 1863, where mobs of workers and laborers rioted for several days, destroying property and attacking African Americans. Tensions over economy. War put pressure on governmental and individual finances. Northern industries boomed because they produced goods the Union needed for the war. However, due to the draft, there was a shortage of labor. To afford the costs of war, in 1861, Congress established the first taxation over income. It also printed $400 million in paper money to help pay the expenses. This printing caused inflation and price of goods during the war increased 80%. The South was less able to sustain a war than the North. The blockade prevented the South from obtaining resources, and this generated more inflation than in the North. Food production fell as the invading Union Army destroyed farmlands. Enslaved people also suffered from wartime shortages. Confederate soldiers seized what little they had. Women in the Civil War. The war opened opportunities for women, who contributed significantly to the war effort. In both the North and the South, women contributed to the war in many different ways. Besides, opportunities they never had before opened for them to enjoy. Many disguised as men and fought in the war. Others took over ranches, farms, plantations, and businesses that men abandoned to go to war. Many women worked in factories. The war created many opportunities for women. Some worked as teachers, and about 10,000 worked as nurses. Former barriers to women faded with the war, especially in the field of nursing. Elizabeth Blackwell was the first female American nurse.